Art is probably the most important tool in which you can teach a society. Religion should have nothing to do with political systems because I didn't want to be lucky. And since then, I had the dream to go from Rimat Hazem all the way to Hollywood. And I did because I wanted to be a storyteller.
Cinema is the most logistical art.
Cinema it's only a method of telling a story. It is down to one specific thing.
Looking at those parties, wondering what is happening to us, like how can those small differences create such frictions and wars? And
I gave my word to the white supremacists to give them their platform, that I will not say a single word about them. I will let them speak for themselves. Your audience are intelligent people. They're not idiots. That film changed my entire attitude about filmmaking. What is God? God is love. That's it. Love. Nothing else.
let me push a little bit here. Also in your film, both parties, they cherry pick the most beautiful things in their religion. He said, I'm just Syrian.
Right.
He was shot. Would you be interested to watch a film that fully created by AI?
You can never feel from a digital creator the power of what it is to be a human being. You will never be able to replace true actors with AI.
But Ziad, you seem very sure about this. Are you sure about
that? I am. Emotions weaved properly with the logic can create a powerful lesson in the end.
It took the church, Ziad, around 300 years to acknowledge that Galileo was right.
The difference between a brave filmmaker and a shallow filmmaker is in their ability to have the courage to show their interpretation. Without that shared human experience, we are left floating in no space. All of them are only about one thing, telling a story.
Hello and welcome. I'm Yazan and this is Parallax, Inside Creative Minds. We love stories. We grow up with them, gather around them, pass them from one generation to another, and return to them whenever life becomes difficult to understand. So why do human beings need stories so deeply? Long before cinema, before novels, before theater as we know it, people gathered around fires and told one another what they had seen, what they had feared, what they had lost, and what they had survived. A story was never just entertainment. It was a way of carrying experiences from one person to another. A way of making pain communicable, memory shareable, and meaning possible. Cinema inherits that ancient impulse, but transforms it into something vast and immersive. It brings together people, actors, image, sound, music, silence, rhythm, performance, and time. It combines many arts into one experience. It can make us enter another life for a while, placing us inside the mind of another human being, inside a wounded community, inside a question we thought we already understood. But that gives cinema also a responsibility. How does a filmmaker search for truth without reducing life into one dimension or turning complexity into a sermon? How do you represent people you disagree with? How do you trust the audience while still carrying a moral vision? And can cinema help us navigate disagreements, whether political, racial, religious, or even metaphysical? And can creativity be taught, or is it something more mysterious than craft? And what can cinema still do in a world flooded with images, technology, algorithm, AI, and noise? Today, my guest is Ziad H. Hamzeh, a Syrian-American filmmaker, writer, director, producer, and a professor. Born in Rimat Hazem, a small village in Suwayda, Syria, Ziad dreamed of making his way to Hollywood, and he did. In Los Angeles, he founded the Open Fist Theater Company, and later the Egyptian Arena, creating spaces for actors and artists in the heart of Hollywood. He went on to build a career across independent film, documentary, narrative cinema, producing and teaching, and eventually found Hamzeh Mystique Films. His body of work has earned more than 50 awards and honors. His documentary, The Letter, An American Town and the Somali Invasion, follows the controversy in Lewiston, Maine, after newly arrived Somali refugees became the center of a national debate around race, immigration, fear, and belonging.
The Somalis did not have the choice to come to the United States.
The film debuted at the AFI Film Festival in 2003 and won the International Spirit Award for Best Documentary at the 2004 Boston International Film Festival.
The existence of God has ever been advanced or adduced.
His dramatic thriller, Irrefutable Proof, written by Richard Castellan, turns towards science, God, death, and the human desire for certainty.
God, Dad's God is nothing but a fairy tale.
The film won the Golden Palm Award, Best Actress and Best Cinematography at the 2016 Beverly Hills Film Festival. And his recent film, Hello Beautiful, based on Christine Handy's book, Walk Beside Me, and starring Tarisha Helfer, follows a successful model whose life is changed by breast cancer diagnosis and whose journey become one of survival, beauty, friendship, and inner strength.
Your mother hates me so much.
The film won the Golden Palm Award at the 2025 Beverly Hills Film Festival. Across his films, Ziad returns again and again to human beings under pressure, people trying to preserve dignity, meaning, and love in unstable worlds.
I'm afraid I have bad news.
In this conversation, we talked about what cinema is, why stories matter, and how film can carry human experience without losing the person at the center. We move through documentary ethics, immigration, Syria, religion, God, beauty, creativity, teaching, and the future of cinema in the age of AI.
Dark corner.
Nothing is going to take you away from me.
And underneath it all is the question that brought us here. Why do human beings need stories so deeply?
I feel like I'm living in someone else's body.
So here's my conversation with Ziad, and I hope you enjoy it.
We are a way of the cosmos to know itself.
This is Parallax, conversations and interviews by me, Yazan. I talk with academics, scientists, thinkers, and all creatives, and I'm here to listen, ask questions, and learn from their insights.
Drawn by the music of cosmic harmonies, it can take us anywhere in space and time.
To better understand how the world works. Ziad Hamzeh, thank you so much for doing this. I'm very happy to talk to you and ask you many questions. Welcome to Parallax.
Well, thank you. Glad to be here.
So, Ziad, we're gonna talk about. I watched a lot of your films, and it was a joy. And I have a lot of questions. We're gonna go through The Letter, the Irrefutable Proof, Hello Beautiful, your latest film. But before, perhaps, and also we're going to talk about cinema in general, but I thought we start from the origin, like your origin story. You're a Syrian-American filmmaker, writer, director, professor as well. You taught cinema, writing, photography. Can you take us to the beginning of how this all started for you?
Well, it's been so long ago that sometimes reality is skewed because we think this is how it was and this is how it might have been. But as long as I remember, as far back in my years as I can go, I've always thought I was going to be in the arts. I always thought I was going to be in the acting, whether it is cinema, whether it's theater, that didn't really matter for me. And so it wasn't like I needed to discover what it is that I'm going for. I knew as though I was born to say, this is, what you're going to be doing with your life. And I had the ability to sort of pull all that focus together in order for me to really get to where I want to go. So I was able to create a plan for myself. This is Hollywood, for example, was the epitome of filmmaking, and that's where I wanted to be. I was born in a tiny little village. It's probably less than a neighborhood in any place in the world. It's maybe 50 people were in the village, maybe 100. I can't remember. But
Damascus?
not Damascus. No. A place called Rimat Hazem. It is somewhere in the southern parts of Syria. It's part of the Suwayda governorate. And it was a tiny little village. I mean, that's where I was born. And since then, I had the dream to go from Rimat Hazem all the way to Hollywood. And I did. In the process of getting there, I made sure to prepare myself with all my studies, with all my understanding, whether it is about fine arts, whether it's about music, whether it's degrees in theater, and I have the highest of all the degrees in that, because I didn't want to be lucky. I wanted to create things from an organic place, things that I desire to see, things that challenged perhaps my own existence first before anybody else's. And so my journey, I'm grateful to whatever it might have been embedded inside of my brain, that this is the path you're going to take. And as you know, a lot of people suffer in not knowing exactly what their life should be shaped like.
Exactly.
I have been so privileged and grateful that I did not have that. I had a particular goal and I was able to seek it. And so I did all the necessary steps to get there, studying. And after graduating, I created my own opportunities. I didn't wait for anybody else to give it to me. I created the Open Fist Theater Company in Los Angeles in the center of Hollywood. And within its first year, it became one of the best theaters in Los Angeles among 300 theaters. And then the year after, I created the Egyptian Arena, which is another black box theater for artists to be able to grow and practice their art. And from there, I continued to, obviously, the evolution of becoming an independent artist, an independent filmmaker, basically.
So it's definitely feels satisfying. Only few people have that, let's call it maybe the intuition. But I wonder where did that come from for you? Was it just something inside? Or was it the environment? Or it feels though satisfying, right? To be in control of one's destiny. Although still art and cinema is a lots of uncertainty in it. It's a big world. And
indeed, it's, talk about the toughest choice you can make is to say, I'm going to seek making films, because it is so difficult to get to that particular place where you would say, really, is it worth it? But so what motivated that? What gave me the strength to be able to pursue that? And I think that's where your question is coming from, is what
is it
what
perhaps
allows
some films or some novels?
It's not. You got to remember, as I said, I was born in a tiny little village. I didn't have cinema in the village. I didn't have television, for the matter of fact. I don't even remember if we had a radio or any of that stuff.
I assume that was kind of in the 50s, right? Maybe, yeah. Cinemas were barely existing.
I was born in 1959, so that
late 50s.
I did not have any access to any of these things until I actually got to Damascus, when I started going to the cinema in Damascus and be able to see this. But I knew way before I even knew about cinema that that's the world that I wanted to be in. Why? It's multitudes of things that just came together in a particular way. Storytelling. It was all about storytelling. And who told me stories? My grandmother. I would be on her lap and she would be telling me about that particular story and that other one. And it was the most beautiful time I ever remember in my childhood. Because I wanted to be a storyteller to sort of bring to people the same feeling that my grandmother brought to me. That's what I found I am able to, because I sort of, she allowed my imagination to grow. She fed that imagination. She nurtured it by all the different types of stories she told me. And she made me believe in things that weren't necessarily accessible to me at the time. So I owe much to my grandmother for doing so without her knowing that that's the world in which I'm going to be seeking in the future. And that stuck with me, that's where I'm going to end up doing, whatever it might be, whether as an actor or as a director or as a writer. And so is it satisfactory? It's beyond satisfactory. It's wonderful because I did not compromise about the goals, the dreams of childhood. Regardless how difficult the journey had been, where, having to go to art school where you had to work 14 hours as a dishwasher to make sure you pay the bills for the school, to be able to get to the dream in which you sought.
So you're not one of those people who say, damn it, I wish I was a lawyer, or...
No way. No, even if it was handed to me, I wouldn't take it.
Yeah.
Why? Because it's not my orientation. It's not the thing in which I am capable of doing as well as what I do right now.
Yeah, I'm only emphasizing this point because, even today in the civilized Western world, we still look at the arts as, as a hobby, especially coming from the Middle East. Our parents would tell us, like, be a lawyer and keep doing music and all that stuff you like, but have a real job. But on the other hand, we read about people who are very satisfied in their life, and they tell almost what you're saying, either in the science or in the art. They would just simply say that I would rather do nothing or keep doing this even if I'm not making any money. There's this satisfaction of doing what you love until it becomes it almost like a play. It's a joy, as they say. You never work a day in your life if you truly love what you do. So
That's
it's great
correct.
So for you, what I'm understanding is storytelling. I wanted to talk about that in depth. Maybe we'll just jump into it.
Mhm.
So storytelling, Ziad, is such a big deal. I wonder first whether you remember any of those stories that your grandma used to tell you, whether they had any functionality, because in Suwayda and Syria, usually, like, one story comes to my mind is when they tell people to not count the stars, and I made a little funny story about it. The reason behind that was that they, simple people in villages, they did not know you could say they maybe were scared to open the discussion of stars. So the folk story goes, if you keep counting the stars, something bad, wicked would happen to you. You would have pimples on your fingers and things like that. And it turns out all of Syria knew about this, so no one would dare to ask about the stars or count them. So I wonder whether you remember any of those stories, whether you realize any utilities behind them, perhaps education, when she was telling you those stories. Anything still comes to your mind?
Absolutely. Thankfully, I still remember many of the stories. The story about the sister who discovered that she had brothers, and she went on a journey to find her brothers, and finally she found them. And there was a witch who would be suckling on her finger to take the blood from her, and the brothers came to her rescue and saved her. Things in nature that are adventurous, things that made you want to say, I want to go on that journey. I want to feel what that is like. I want to be able to travel. So it was almost always about journeys that took you from one place to the other. And in the process, you were able to succeed and find what your destiny might be all about, and to fight for it, and to demand it, and to desire it, and to want it. So it wasn't about really, I'm not sure her intention was to
teach you something
for me. I think it was more for
entertainment or fascination.
Indeed, entertainment, because of the way I happened to be with her. So I came after 6 sisters, and my mother had a shock when she had a baby boy, because as you know, baby boys are the most important, which is silly. After 6 beautiful daughters, my mother had me, and she went into a shock and lost her ability to feed me through milk. So my grandmother was the one who really took care of me in that regard, not that breastfed me, but to take me with her to different places to alleviate some of the pressures on my mother because of all the other 6 children that she had to worry about. So in the process, whether it is in the telling of the stories or in the doing of the things where she took me, and my sense of observation had grown so tremendously. I remember still until now, I mean, I was 1.5 years old to 2 years old. Remember, she put me on a small donkey, and we had to go and to a different town, which is where Sultan al-Atrash was living at the time. Raya. And we had to meet with him because she needed to ask his help to help my father be released because of some issues that took place in the town at that time. And I remember meeting him when I was that young. I still remember what his guest room looked like, where, he brings everybody in there, and what kind of material was on that. The little details that stuck with me, that stayed with me, whether a journey in real life or a journey in the imagination, they sort of weaved into one another and did not really split from one another, because they were, even though her intention wasn't educational, in the process for me, it was foundational for my educational system as to how to build life and how to tell story and how to merge the two.
So you met Sultan. Do you remember that? He had any impression on you? Were you old enough to think about it?
At that time, I was 2 years old. I was playing in the little room as my grandmother was talking to him about what she needed. But when I was about 11 years old, my father and my uncles wanted us to go and visit with Sultan. And that's the time where I do remember him very well. He stood, I stood, he was standing, and I was maybe this much height on me, very, very little guy at 11 years old. And when I put my hand in his, it disappeared. He had such big hands, maybe because I was so young at the time. But as that happened, he looks at me like very seriously. He says, I want you to be as good as your father. You hear me? And I said, yes, sir.
And just for people who don't know, he's the man from Suwayda who led the Syrian Revolution against the French occupation in the 1940s? 25.
And he was able to win them the freedom, the independence for Syria. So yes, I do remember meeting him. I remember I still love him because of the sense of nobility he had about him, yet the sense of honesty. He was not a man of privilege. He was a farmer, and he remained a farmer his entire life, despite the fact that he was offered gold and offered palaces and offered the presidency. He refused all of that.
Right.
And so I have great admiration to him.
Absolutely. So stories have this power, as you mentioned. They don't have to be educational. They can capture our minds. I was thinking the other day, and usually I want to see what you think about this. How even, old ancient humans, they would sit across fire, gather around fire, start telling those stories. So obviously, even from biological point of view, even from mythical point of view, in my mind, even gods and religion, they used stories. I mean, half big chunks of the scriptures are made of stories across all religion, as if a way for us human to understand some meaning to, like, maybe abstract things like friendship or love or any of those concepts only through stories.
Mm-hmm.
But cinema, I want to move to cinema, try to a bit philosophically to reconstruct what is cinema. I want to think with you, because in one way it's pretty simple, like putting all of those arts together. How do you, what is cinema today for you? I mean, obviously there's genres and subgenres, and each director have his own vision. It could be pure story. It could be, but sometimes we can imagine a film that doesn't have a story or doesn't have even characters, or maybe the champion is visuals, or there's many ways to think about cinema. So do you have like an answer to what is cinema, at least maybe at this moment, or maybe before, or maybe your mind is changing about it, or do you discover that while you go through a film?
Cinema, regardless how different it is in terms of genres, in terms of breadth and depth to it, it is down to one specific thing. It is in its heart a storytelling mechanism. Just like in theater, just like in literature, just like in fine arts, like in photograph, all of them are only about one thing: telling a story. Right? So you mentioned something about that they sat around the fire in the old days and started telling stories. Well, what is the secret? Why? Why did we feel the need to tell stories?
Exactly.
Because it is shared human experiences that we belong to one another. It is that shared experience that allows us, or that gives us a necessity to be able to actually express what we just discovered. The caveman used to go on the hunt, and with all the adventures that he would used to have, he would come back and start drawing things on the cave wall as to share what he just experienced.
To tell his story. Yeah.
To tell his story, as this is what I went through, this is what I did. And that shared human experience becomes pivotal in order for us to feel that we exist and that we belong. Without that shared human experience, we are left floating in no space. We are not tethered to something. We would be untethered. And human nature is constantly needing to be connected, to be grounded somewhere, to something. It doesn't matter what that might be. So what cinema is, it's only a method of a different method of telling a story. In theater, it is the actors, it is the writer, it is the director that they emote and they live those experiences of the characters and impact those viewers in front of them. In literature, it is about seeping into the imagination and the psyche of the reader to make sure that they feel it, understanding, see it, and allow their imagination to work with it. In cinema, it's different mechanism. We used many different arts. We used sound. We used light. We used filters. We used lenses. We used camera. We used script. We used actors. We used fine arts. We use all of these different things, but really, in its heart, it's only using all of these elements to be able to tell the story in a particular way, in a different method than in theater and or in literature or in fine arts or in photographs and so on. So it's that cinema, to try to understand it or to make it other than it is the tools in which you use to create what is called style and interpretation. It is the style in which you have to be able to figure out as a filmmaker, what style do I need to move this story through to be able to be most effective, and utilizing that the elements that are at your disposal in filmmaking to be able to tell these two things by the sheer perfection of joining the two, the style and the interpretation, you come up on the other side with a story that is worth listening to.
Amazing. There's a lot here. You said by style, do you mean craft? Because I want to ask you about that.
So style is what really it means. It's all the elements that you use, all of the camera, the equipment, the costumes, the sound, the lighting, all of these things are part of making you as a student, for example. These are the things you go to school to learn. Mm-hmm. These are the elements in which gives you the ability to say, I choose this sound, I choose this light, I choose this lens, I choose this camera, and on, and the writing. These collectively, they are embedded under something called style, but all of that is provoked by interpretation. Mm-hmm. That's personal. That's yours.
That's the taste.
That's your imagination. That's what all your background, what all your thinking, what all your neighborhood, what all your growth has provided you. It's the lenses that are in front of your eyes that allows you to see the world in in a unique way. And only you would see it that way. Is it different from all humans? Slightly so, because there is your DNA and your experiences mixed together to allow you to get to the point of that's who you are. But the shared experiences are the same. Mm-hmm. They impact all of us in the same way.
Yeah, but I want to stay here a little bit on what do you call style, but my understanding is the equipment, the logistics, let's call it craft, if I may.
The location, yes, it is part of the craft, indeed.
So only in cinema, Ziad, it seems to me that cinema is the most logistical art. You know, let's start with a painter. All he needs is his ink and his canvas. A composer could need just his piano. A poet needs his ink and so forth. So we have this part, which is the craft, the tools, and then we have what we call maybe what matters is the vision, the message, but only in cinema the gap between those two is insane, is very big, to the point where a filmmaker could even be asking himself, well, I have to go through all of those logistics and permissions and sounds and crew and who knows what and money and then asking, will this film even survive, before even, never mind thinking about the vision itself. It's this art form where the whole process becomes the challenge itself. Do you see this tension here where I wonder how do you see it, or how do you it might affect the vision itself, right? Unlike painting, or where you just can focus and deliver what you want, when the craft becomes the journey, when the craft and logistics and all of that and money becomes the biggest challenge.
So there is a balance between the two. Indeed, unlike certain arts, as a writer, all you need is a pen. You are able to just write away everything in which you desire, yes, until you run out of ink and go steal it or whatever it might be, buy it. In filmmaking, the difference is the business of filmmaking is much more complex and hard.
Right.
Especially in the United States, because many of the crafts in the filmmaking is unionized. And for each union, there are certain standards in which you have to have, there are a certain amount of money in which you have to give. And especially nowadays, the industry has shifted and changed drastically. I mean, dramatically, as much as anybody can imagine, where money has become very scarce. It's not as available to filmmakers as it used to be before. There are so many platforms and so many studios and so many content being created that goes to nothing, basically, unfortunately, because the amount of losses in filmmaking way surpasses the amount of films that actually make money. I mean, I was just reading an article about a film from Saudi Arabia that cost $150 million. That was the biggest flop in history. Some ridiculous numbers that it didn't do incredibly well. But that lesson, unfortunately, is being repeated over and over, and everybody, and unfortunately, parts of it is because the arrogance that exists in filmmaking sometimes, where you say, no, my film will make money. As though it doesn't matter whether somebody else's film, regardless of the amount of stars, regardless how supposedly good they are, still a flop. Ultimately, it comes to the people who believe in you, who want to see the vision that you shared with them to come to fruition. Is it for money? It differs. Some people want to invest in you because they love you. Some people invest in you because they think you are their winning horse. Some people because this is an investment that covers their taxation of some sort. Anyway, each, regardless what the difference between how you get to fund, it is that business of filmmaking that has become nearly hardest to be able to make it. And that's why earlier I said, if I had known the part of the business when I was younger, I might have chosen a different business because it is that challenging.
That's why I asked you that before, yeah.
Right.
But what I'm understanding from what you're saying is, cinema has this spectacle. When it becomes a spectacle, there's even a phrase, I forget, maybe you can, where it says where the money is. People go to theaters to see big things smashing. It's for them, it becomes ridiculously satisfying to see. I want to see, as going to a theater, the biggest airplane getting smashed and things like that. And that part, it's maybe a bridge I want to go through when cinema can ignore that, or how do we feel about, does the artist have any sort of mission? I want to take this as a bridge to go to your one of my favorite movies of yours, The Letter. Maybe I can just it's maybe you can help me with setting this up just for the listeners. So it talks about the crisis about the Somali in the 2002. They went to as refugees after the civil war, and they went to what was it? The city,
Lewiston, Maine.
Maine, yeah, Maine. And then the mayor of Maine, he composed a famous letter telling them not to come anymore, and then the media called it invasion, the Somali invasion. There's a lot to talk about here. First, I love this film. The editing, I want to ask you about the editing. It was very strong. But first, let's start. What draw you there? You're not Somali. Is a collision of Muslims and black Muslims and the white supremacists, and there's a lot of mess there. Like, what draw you, and can you tell us?
Yeah, of course. So the year before I actually went to make the letter, I was in it's the city of Lewiston in Maine, which is the second biggest city in that area. And I filmed Shadow Glories. It's a feature film, narrative feature film, not a documentary. And I met with the previous mayor, not the mayor who was there for the letter, but the previous mayor and other city individuals, and said I related my experience with them as a filmmaker, how I would, wherever I go or bring my films, I would leave the place better than I found it.
Mm.
And I made a promise to use all the resources there and to help people in terms of bringing business into town. Whether we rented different apartments to help the community, whether we, catered all our food from the restaurants near, and on. And I made a promise that before the film opened in Los Angeles, that we will have the night before to premiere in Lewiston, Maine, which wasn't an option at the time. And I fulfilled every single promise I did.
Mm-hmm.
We premiered it before we actually took it to Los Angeles. When the problems happened with the year after I made that film, there was about 1,100 Somalis who were chosen to live in Lewiston, Maine, and all of a sudden, like an explosion had taken place because it's 98% white, and all of a sudden, all these Black people came into their town, and lies started taking place, and huge fights started occurring, especially because in Lewiston, Maine, the town right next door is where the pilot whose helicopter crashed, the Black Hawk Down in Somalia, was dragged on the streets of Somalia by Somalians. And now that the Somalians are here, it created this incredible tension between people who wanted to kill them, wanted to take revenge, and on and on. And so the mayor at the time called me up, said, Ziad, listen, we have the news from all over the world calling us racist. They are making our town feel uninhabitable. We need help. Could you please come and tell the real story of what is taking place? Because we can't depend on ABC and NBC and CNN, and all of them were saying just the highlights of what that story is, the non-factual elements. So I called the executive producer of the same film from the year before, and I said, listen, we have to do this. This town has stood by us, and we have to stand by them. He said, great. How much do you need? I gave him the number. He said, 10 a.m. in the morning, you'll have the check there. And lo and behold, the check came. I got into the car and started driving to Maine. It was maybe 4 feet of snow during the time. So I was driving very slowly in the middle of the night to be able to get to where I'm going. And what happened is I needed to find the particular angle, the particular approach that I need to tell this story. And I wanted to find first the common denominator between me and the Somali people. They are immigrants. They speak Arabic. They have similar religion, not necessarily the same. All of these elements in which I felt at one point or another, being an immigrant in this country, some of the differences in which the way we are treated. And it's natural. It's natural because not because people are bad or innately bad. It's because difference is always treated with somewhat of a distance. And so I made a commitment that I wanted to tell the story of these good Somali people who came looking for a better place to live. And also, I gave my word to the white supremacists to give them their platform, that I will not say a single word about them. I will let them speak for themselves without me interrupting, because I knew if I were to interfere in the process of what they were doing or what they are saying, I'm going to shift the viewer's mind as though I manipulated it. And what I wanted to do is for them to feel that everything in which they are watching and seeing was authentic experience, was organic, it was truthful rather than made up. And so I set out to, we had about 8 cameras. We shot over 55 hours for many, many weeks to bring that particular story together. And I also made a promise that before I take this, and the film premiered at AFI, which is a prestigious film festival, the American Film Institute. I said, before we premiere it there, I will show it to the entire community. If you guys feel that I wasn't just or I wasn't truthful, I will make sure to take the film out of the market. So they chose a middle school auditorium, which was their biggest and where they can fit many people. And lots of people. I mean, it was so filled. People were standing in the aisles, standing in the different places, because all the seats were taken, and it was over 1,000-seat theater. And in the first few minutes as the film started, people would be giggling because they would see themselves or would see somebody they know, and not 2 minutes into the film where you could drop a needle and hear it. It was so quiet, so silent. And all of a sudden, the film ended, and you hear this roar of people standing up, clapping, people in tears, people, 10 minutes, literally, just continuous, thunderous applause.
Awesome. So this was like a mix.
Not for me, for the film.
This was a mixed audience?
That's a mixed audience. So the white supremacists were there, the Somalis were there, regular people from the church that helped them was there. So all of a sudden we had a white supremacist go right up on the stage in front of everybody and said, Somali community, I want to apologize. I am so sorry. We did not mean to put you through the pain and the headache and the struggle in which we seem to have put you through. One of the elders of the Somali people goes up on the stage, shakes his hand, they hug in front of people, and the continuous applause for all of the experience in which they went through. That film changed my entire attitude about filmmaking.
I can imagine. And I also clapped to it because I loved the film. I think it really did an incredible job. I was about to ask you about the editing.
Yeah.
But this story is also, so that did happen. Wow.
Every single thing in there is a truthful experience. As you saw, I edited it along with my technical editor. The ideas that I was offered many other films right after it, and I started evaluating storytelling and filmmaking based on the impact of what the letter has been able to do. And the letter is in almost every college library across the United States. They use it as a teaching tool and not just in the United States, globally, actually.
So is this film that redefined cinema, as you put it, for you?
For me,
For
it
you,
redefined the purpose of cinema.
the purpose of your films. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about the editing. The editing, obviously, at the end, the final card is that they both lived in relative peace, as you say. That's something I want to reflect on. But before the editing, you also it says at the card that it's written by you, which
Correct.
which led me to think that how the editing was really great. It's just so you show us in a way the juxtaposition of ideas, the white supremacists, the Somali, you just cut between them. There's never a voiceover, right? There's no
Correct.
voiceover. You're not telling us what to think. You're just exposing this pressure of reality, assuming that the viewer is smart and he would take that pressure and think about it. I thought this is really great way to represent the ideas, and it created all that tension and but also it touches on I want to see what was the pressure on you, because it's on one hand a big responsibility. Perhaps you needed to navigate representing people with integrity, and how do you handle when we tell a story about someone else, how do you handle when you disagree with something? Did you go into the struggle? Did I represent the white supremacists or the other part? Am I smuggling my own opinions? The idea of all that tension, the stranger obviously coming, the Somali people coming, and they're not welcomed for the most part. Any person with decent thinking would think this is wrong, but you as a filmmaker, you also have the responsibility to not lean so hard into the Somali, right? So I wonder how was that pressure for you, and how did you deal with it? Did you feel like you represented both parties? Was there
I did. So one of the things in which you always, as a filmmaker, to believe in is that your audience are intelligent people. They're not idiots. You don't need to tell them things. You don't need to feed them in order for them to make up their mind. As a matter of fact, being respectful as a storyteller is to empower the viewer's ideas. That's where you can make a difference, and that's where you can actually enter into their psyche. And one of the things in which you have to be able to do is place part of the responsibility on their shoulders, not yours. As a filmmaker, you have to bring authentic experiences to them. As viewer, you have to take those experiences and interpret it in your own way. And as we stated, interpretation becomes so necessary for each individual to have their own perspective on the story, so that they come up with a convincing evidence why they thought the way they thought, not because I fed it to them, not because I made them, or because I preached at them, or because I told them I need you to think that way. What I did is ensure that the story had all the elements to be able to allow them the free thinking, while at the same time embed a different layer underneath, allowing the emotional parts to exist in the way I edited, in the way I added certain things where, for example, you see a child when people are screaming at each other and they're outside in the cold, and this young girl, maybe 4 or 5, wearing this pink jacket with a sign saying, "My best friend was born in a different place." And I focused my camera on that, while these people, you can hear them in the background trying to kill each other. And while she is being scared by those voices, and she starts crying, and her mom is comforting her. The combination of how you actually tell a story ultimately you're going to get to a place where you say, I have a voice, but how do I balance my voice with, while respecting the audience's point of view, the audience's perspective, because they need to find the truth themselves, not me telling them the truth.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm seeing here, Ziad, is it's less than finding one's voice, because this is what we see in the media, especially when the documentaries about politics. It's clear that the filmmaker have a voice. In fact, it could be the problem that his voice is so pronounced. What I'm seeing here is the courage, one, to, as you mentioned, to trust that the audience is smart, and that by itself is a responsibility. Like, not just trusting that they have the nuance, they can, but also the for example, to put it explicitly, you showed some of those very disturbing slogans coming from the white supremacists, using the Bible to say, even the Abraham Lincoln, the all of those things, to say that those were for white Christians, and
Yes.
we are the best, and the democracy or freedom of speech is exclusively for us, and so you maintain that in a way. But I was wondering whether you struggled to maybe to put your own opinion a little bit aside, because if I would play the devil's advocate, it's a truly good question to ask, like whether the town of Maine can actually deal with the flood of that's a scientific question, or like legit question. Like, we sometimes, if we're on the other side, we ignore it. Like, those are the natives. They do have something to say. So how did you deal with that?
Well, I answered that in the film. I actually set it up as, what the town people's perspective was, that the Somalis come and they get all these advantages over the residents, whether it is more diapers, whether it is food stamps, whether it's cars from the government or money, all these misunderstanding of things. And we know as immigrants that doesn't happen. No one gives us anything. You have to make it. You have to create it. You have to do it. And in the case of the Somalis, when I did my due diligence of understanding who they are or what they contributed to the community, I saw from the year before, when I was shooting another film where Main Street was mostly closed, boarded up with their shops, all of these shops were reopened by Somali people who came to the town, improving the economic sense. So for me to see from both sides, and I had the privilege to be able to see it what it was before, to see it what it is now, and being able to compare between the two. And I had to maintain that sense of honesty as to what it created, while at the same time maintaining the perspective of the actual residents now. You couldn't have extracted that because it doesn't suit your story, or it won't serve what you want from it. You have to be able to include it. Why? Because you have to create the full spectacle in front of the viewer, so that the viewer's confusion and then understanding and then settling and then making the decision comes from them. That experience, that necessity is essential for having value to what it is you're doing. Did I suffer in the process? Well, I'm
sure you did a little bit.
I'm in a variety of ways. My life was threatened. My everything was, so nothing was simple about telling that story, but it was necessary and it was obligatory to tell that story.
Yeah. So, I was about to ask you if you'd ever lose the joy of it, because I want to tell you about a perspective and then move to something else. One thing I was thinking about when I was watching the letter, I cannot help but just look at humanity as a one thing. I mean, I'm recently less involved in news and politics and more into the big picture, which could be easily interpreted as someone who is detached, which is not the case. But to me, politics is today is noise, and we come from Middle East, and so I was looking at those parties, wondering what is happening to us. Like, how can those small differences create such frictions and wars? And I don't know what is the answer to you, but to me, it could be when religion goes to become a dogma, and it's fueling both parties. And this would take me now to, because you dealt with this with the irrefutable proof, which is a beautiful subject. That's a fiction narrative written by Richard Castellane.
Castellane, yes.
Richard Castellane wrote and the premise is so beautiful. Maybe you could tell us. It is just a scientist who want to disprove once and for all the existence, that God doesn't exist, and finally we would be there would be no problems anymore. So maybe before we go into the film, can you pinpoint, maybe at least now, where this friction is coming from on and on? Because in my mind, it's not the news. It's not what's happening today. We have those close ideas, and perhaps it's uncomfortable to challenge them. But I come from recently more scientific point of view that everything could be solved by data, by science, I mean, we could achieve liberty, diversity, equality, all of it, if we just listen to the voice of reason. But we have this attachment to the unknown, to our tradition, which your film Irrefutable Proof tackle exactly that. This is so how do you see that?
So religion has been utilized throughout history for good, bad, and evil. It's in all its capability. The best religion is the religion that allows you to be able to become a better human. Simple, a better human being, right. Which means a more generous, more kinder, more embracing of everything and everyone and every culture. That's the best of religion. Yes, building a great, grand community. But unfortunately, religion, just like any schooling, can be utilized for evil as well. It can be detrimental to society to have it so oppressive as people can no longer think for themselves. And it can be used in the way in which it is used today, politically motivated, fanning the flames of hatred, bringing on their own agenda and weaving it through religious phrases to make justification for all the suffering in which they are causing.
Right.
So it's not religion's fault that happens. It's humans' fault who misuse its message of the positive message of religion to turn it into a dark message. If thinking about God, what is God? God is love. That's it. Love, nothing else. And love doesn't destroy, love builds. Love doesn't tear down, love empowers.
Absolutely. So your tolerance, you have generosity with you think we need this story, which is God and religion to, I mean, I respect that, but I lean toward more that we maybe should dismantle those ideas and grow up a little bit, or how do you see it?
If it is to be taught right, not about the following a certain regimented patterns in which puts individuals in their place or their fear of hell and heaven and whatever it is. If religion is taught that everything is about love and about kindness and about embracing and about generosity, about helping, if that's what religion is, I embrace that.
But it's not. And also,
but it's not. But that's not the fault of religion.
And Ziad, let me push a little bit here. Also, in your film, both parties, if we go back for a second in the letter, they cherry pick the most beautiful things in their religion, and we know if you read the religion, how it's actually fueling this conflict. And maybe I'm dramatic about this, but the only way I can agree with you, which is like when secularism, when education, we respect people to believe whatever they want, but then we insert laws and we just trust our humanity. And what do you think? I mean, that's why
I'm not preaching that religion ought to be or not ought to be. That's it should be to each individual. In my own personal family, I have 3 boys. I raised them without a particular religious inclination to this or that. I allowed them to have the choice of what it is. What I tried to do as a parent, my wife and I, tried to bring them the best of how human should be, as an example of what they need to grow up believing and thinking, and hopefully that we have made a certain impact. And so it's not that I'm saying religion needs to stay or needs to go, because that's not up to me. That's up to each individual and in their own personal lives. What I'm saying, what is good about religion, if there is something, it is those elements that I previously mentioned. What is bad is that humans have manipulated the message to suit their own needs.
Yeah.
Whether
absolutely.
to kill, whether to destroy, whether to, if we were to say, listen, if we were to take religion out of the equation, what might it be? Well, it seems like the nature of human beings, they will find something else to fight over. They will find, okay, well, they have more oil than we do, so we're going to go get their oil. Or they have more, more gold or more opium or more whatever it is. They're going to find, unfortunately, another reason.
So
and
we're
for
doomed.
each reason, indeed. And so what do we do? What do we do about this? Is we continue to defy wrongs. We push against it. We don't stay silent. You see, silent is when we make the mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And that's finally brings me here to the irrefutable proof. I guess the theme is that is exact question. If we just decline or we declare that God doesn't exist, finally, what are the implications of that, right? I'm assuming, is that what draw you to the film?
Indeed, it's the idea. So let's walk this journey. Let's walk down those particular paths. If I am a scientist and I'm fighting whatever it is for whatever my reasons are, whatever my motivation is, to prove to the world that there is no God.
Let's say it's just truth, according to your protagonist, right?
Indeed.
She's after truth. She's
after the truth. But finally, once you deliver the truth, how does that serve you or serve humanity? How does that do? In the case in which we used in Irrefutable Proof, at least in parts of having religion, it became having a system. And you take that system out, and all of a sudden people are at a loss because they have been sort of taught right from the beginning about this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And all of a sudden you take that away. What happens? You take the source of every reason in which they make a way.
Thus, so that worries you. That worries you. If we would be a little bit get slightly more concrete, what systems you're like? I can mention which something I'm interested in, like the awe, the wonder. But most people rather enjoy the rainbow, enjoy flowers, other than learning the explanations of those things. Knowing that there's hundreds of billions of stars, just to feel humble, rather than studying astronomy. And from that angle, also maybe thinking, hoping that there will be justice one day. There will be. I would see my family after they die, and other than just accepting, what if we take responsibility now? For example, like there's no proof that we're gonna live.
We're not prepared.
Yeah,
We're not prepared. That's the problem. You see, the majority of our societies are not prepared to take a responsibility of the present. The reason we have created, including scientists, this, whether some people think it's a myth, whether it's a reality, that there is life after life. I don't know if there is. No one has proven that, yet people in the millions and billions have believed in that. Why? You ask why? Why? It's because it's comforting. It's grounding for us. And as
absolutely.
I said, a human being always needs to feel tethered to something. Otherwise, we float. And we don't like floating. We get dizzy. We start vomiting. And we don't want that. We want stability in our lives. So they created, so religion allows that to so many people. Who am I to go to either the Muslim religion, the Jewish religion, the Druze religion, the whatever it is, and say, you are wrong. There is no religion. You people are, going at whatever it is you're doing completely wrong. You're idiots.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually need the right to do that.
Ziad, I agree. If you're not, I mean, one should not supposed to knock on people's doors and tell them, hey, by the way, guess what? There's no God, and that would be like a little bit cruel. Yeah. But I want to again push back here, because we both come from Syria, and we inevitably have to face what's going on here. Coming from this discussion, when religion and belief and those dogmas, they're manifesting in reality, they're doing horrible things. The people are killed based on their religion.
Right.
The radical Islam is killing minorities, being bad to women, to gays, saying music is haram, and it's basically insane. In this position, I don't see it's luxury anymore, or me going into knocking on people's doors and telling them, by the way, God doesn't exist. I feel it more like an ethical responsibility that, hey, we have to grow out of this or something. How do you see and navigate that? Does this tension bother you? Do you do
a lot? It bothers me a great deal. As a matter of fact, I was so emotional when these things were happening, especially to a community that I come from, and seeing the pain, the suffering that they had to tolerate due to, one person said, I am from that particular sect. He was shot immediately.
Yeah, the famous story. He said, I am, you mean the kid who was shot? He was asked, what's your religion? He said, I'm just Syrian.
Right. Exactly.
And he was shot. He
was shot because he said, yes.
Syrian, not Muslim. So that's an example we were talking.
Right. But as I stated, in terms of it's not the religion that it's bad. It's the people who execute the religion in the wrong mannerism that creates the bad. I will never be silent about any religion doing something wrong against humanity, against common sense, against decency.
I know you were one of the fewest to speak about it in Facebook, and I remember that. I actually, Ziad, just for fun, I would say in my opinion, it's the other way around. I would not blame people because I see them as victims. I would blame the scriptures and religion as a holy word of God's that we're not supposed to challenge, which is full of backward superstitious.
No. So here is where the difference is, and I think that's where our visions are a bit different. You see, it's when I said there are those who manipulate religion to suit their purpose, to get people to march for them, to kill for them, to dissect for them. It is those people's faults. These are the evil ones.
Yeah, radicals.
The radicals that actually taught you wrong. They taught their own children wrong. They taught the killing, the thievery, the destruction, rather than teaching them the love, to teaching them to embrace, teaching them to empower. They didn't teach them that. I remember when I would hear a friend's father, when we were tiny bit running around in Damascus, he said, "Why are you playing with that kid? He's poor. Go play with that rich kid. Steal from their home." It was like, what? How can a father, a parent, teach them? It's not the God who told him to say that. It's his own friggin' ignorance that made him tell his child or teach his child this particular lesson. So we have to create the differences where it's coming from. But if you were to look at what each religion serves in terms of higher being, producing a higher being, which means a person who lacks fault, that would have been a beautiful thing. But we took it and we reshaped it, because we don't just leave it to empower people. We manipulate it to use people. That's what was going on. That's what's going on right now. Unfortunately, in Syria, it is being manipulated against the different sects, making the other sects, like that father telling the other guy, that the little kid, to go steal from the rich kids, as though it's right. They are doing the same thing with all these different sects. And the sad part is, when you try to fight that, when you try to state the truth, you see, they have been so embedded inside of their psyche, inside of their brains, that God is responsible for this, not the father that taught them the wrong message or the wrong lessons. That's where they have short-circuiting about that.
But that's exactly right, because I mean, once we treat religion as, say, socialism, Marxism, whatever, we can adjust and edit and upgrade. But once it's the word of the actual holy, omnipotent, whatever God, we can't do anything about it. The only thing we can do, I'm sure you agree, Ziad, is to push, as you said, to insert humanism, secularism, law, based on education and science and data. I mean, we could measure how people are doing, how are they living through scientific data, and then apply that to reality. We don't need stories that told by, protected by the God. But I acknowledge your generosity with the way you're trying to see religion as something perhaps necessary. And I want to ask you now, how do you see we go out of this? Where do you think, like, maybe I have a tendency to think that maybe we're not ready even to secularism, and it's going to take time. But however, we should start with this journey, like, through education. And where do you see, if any, light at the end of this long journey and tunnel?
First of all, religion should have nothing to do with political systems. They should not. The religion should be a personal thing, a personal journey for each individual themselves, not something in which we have to impose on everybody else's. That particular philosophy needs to be clear, needs to be completely
secular state, separating
all
state from religion.
Should be secular states. Because each and every single state has multitudes of different religions under their system. You cannot govern them by one system. Whether there is more of a particular religion than in the other, it doesn't matter. To truly have equality, to truly have democracy, it's not about, how many people are in a particular religion. that should govern. It should be about the common benefit of all people. No one should be treated lesser. No one.
But Ziad, how do we get there? Obviously, a lot of Syrians, they don't even know what that means. They have this pre-assumptions. They think that people would just go and have sex and drink beer, and that's what secularism is to them. We're not even in the conversation about that. They think this is something from the Western world. We're just going to install it. And how do we get there?
Education. That is the most essential part in which we are missing. True education. Not education from one particular point of view, but an education that truly respects humans, truly empowers humans to become better. And so you teach these things. You embed it the same way in which they embedded the wrong lessons. You try to cleanse it from that. Without education, we are doomed to constantly repeat that same awful lesson over and over and over. It's not about, again, it's not saying to them or convincing them one way or the other. It is about educating a whole new generation what it means to become better, what it means to have equality, what it means to have democratic system or any other system in which people unified toward having in a particular society. So we can't impose that. We can't drill their mind and say, here, I'm going to stuff this note inside your head, and now you are healed. As it's a sickness. What we're going through is a sickness right now, and a sickness that has been empowered by the greed of those in powers.
Yeah,
constantly, because they don't want to let go. And they are the same ones who wanted to revolt against the other power. They come in, and all of a sudden that big seat that they sit in takes over. And nothing in which anybody would say or would do tries to pull them out of that seat again. And they change as people, because as we all know, power corrupts.
So
and they immediately do.
What I'm understanding from you, I 100% agree. I think education is the only way, the best tool we ever have, the best tool that would work in any situation. It's just a question of how to put it in motion. And then maybe I'm understanding that I do not trust politicians. I don't feel that the solution would come from different government rather than the one we have now in Syria. Is that your view? Because some intellectuals, some artists, they think like it's just a matter of changing the president now and his government, and then we would suddenly, I don't know, be Sweden or something. And I see it really comic, like the...
Yeah, that's not, no, it's not a magic wand, and it's not about changing the face of somebody. It's not about changing a particular system from this to that to this other thing. It is, again, without the proper foundation to build a society, a community on shared vision of that particular community, there can never be one. Yeah, again and again, we claim to be pure as we seek to tumble and to topple down all of the different other systems until we get there. And I could name names of people that I knew that are now in power and who've forgotten where they came from. They forgot it overnight. You see, the problem is it's because they suffer from the same disease. They haven't healed. They all have the disease. And what needs to happen, and that's what I meant about purifying that entire system. It's like making sure that your water is being able to be drank. You're not drinking from the same toxic waters. And you say, I'm just going to look out for number one, and that's me. I'm not letting go of that seat of power. It's the same thing. So therefore, again, you have to start fresh, as though almost rebuilding an entire society from scratch.
Do you see cinema and art in general can play a big role here. If we first, before that, if we talk about education, like take people today, teach them evolution, teach them the history of Homo sapiens, teach them this and that, and there's something sometimes doesn't work because it clashes inevitably with the religious point of view. The earth is flat, we're not the center of the universe. You know, Galileo in the 1600 everyone thought that he's insane, and he proved everyone else wrong, and he challenged the Bible. And so it seems like sometimes, and it took the church, Ziad, I made a video about this, around 300 years to acknowledge that Galileo was right, like 300 something years. And it seems the lesson is obvious for us. Like we do not accept sometimes reality. It's just too harsh for us, especially if we have tribalism ideology. I wonder how do you see art here can do something perhaps different?
Art is probably the most important tool in which you can teach a society, which you can impact a society, because it doesn't only deal with logic, but it deals with emotions. And emotions weaved properly with the logic can create a powerful lesson in the end. It changes minds. Bertolt Brecht knew that, for example. He knew exactly how to utilize the power of the stage, the power of the play, to change people's minds, to anger them, to make them want to do something about it, to walk into the streets and say, we must change. Art has always been able to do that. The thing is, how far can art go when there are certain powers that is constantly fighting against it, fighting against the purity? And how can you tell a very sick person, hey, we're going to go out and celebrate and dance, when the sick person can't even stand straight? Their inability to perceive, to hear, to feel, to think will not allow them to cross to the other side. They can't go on the dance floor. They're too sick. So you have to heal first before you're able to actually implement a whole new path for them, right? So it's that sense of balance. It's the patience, and how does the art fit within a particular scenario? It has to come slow. It has to come not as in your face, showing you what the truth is. You have to make sure that they are able to buy the truth, to embed it into their psyche.
Yeah, definitely. Especially cinema, it could go through different directions. Some movies could have a clear message, which this would bring me to your latest movie, Hello, Beautiful. So I watched interviews with you and Christine Handy, right? Your collaborator. She wrote the book. You turned the book into a script, and I love the theme that you and her wanted to emphasize a message here. It's almost when cinema is telling us something very carefully. Is that correct? It's about the story of. You want to tell us?
I adore Christine because of her incredible energy to try to do the right thing always. When she was struck by breast cancer, she was looking around to see inspiration of what should she do, what should she be looking forward to, and everything in which she saw led her to believe that she's going to die tomorrow. Because whether it's the movies, whether it is the books, so she felt that if I am able to overcome this and survive this, and it was horrible in her case, and she did a miraculous recovery for her, she was able to do. She wrote the book.
Complete recovery.
With the intention, she wrote the book with the intention of sharing it with the world to change the perspective that breast cancer doesn't necessarily mean a death sentence. Don't buy into the other ideas and make sure, there are these steps, there are this kind of power, there is not just one particular angle, and really wanted to share. That's what I talked about, shared human experiences, wanting to change that perspective to help other women find, that inspiration, the resilience inside of them to be.
And the film definitely delivered that with a beautiful score and the beautiful acting. But I also wonder, I just want to talk about, did that clash with your filmmaker mind? Like, what I mean is, on one hand, you both had this idea, you want to deliver, you want to give hope, let's say, to people and give a message, which the film succeeded highly on that. But did it clash with your filmmaker brain, that what if I tweak this, I want more of that, a little bit, what if hope is too hopeful, or
well, so it was incredibly balanced. Remember, I've stated before that I always look for an authentic experience to bring to people, not something that is dramatized, especially because if it is a film or a theater. But both Christine and I were determined to bring the truth, to bring something in which to really allow the experience to stand on its own feet without us imposing upon it. And that's the thing that I went after. So it couldn't have crashed with any of the things in which I believe in, because authenticity was number one. And Tricia Halfer, in her delivery, was absolutely that, as authentic
she
as
was
it could
great.
be. Yeah. And
she looks like Christine.
They do, absolutely.
Right?
That is
for
one
a
of
moment
the
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons. Actually, it's one of the million reasons. Trisha is a remarkable actor who delivered brilliantly on doing that job. So one of the how much hope is too much? By living an authentic experience where she become near death and then be able to recover slowly because of all the elements embedded in the film that helps recovery. It was truthful rather than, oh, okay, look at that. There is a magic wand. There is no magic wand. There is this and that and the other and so on. And all of them pulling together to make the experience complete for the person who needs recovery.
Yeah, definitely. The film was so beautiful and very touching. And it seems like this is also a theme in your whole work, where there's pressure, there's pain. I was thinking about pain watching Hello Beautiful, as if something from philosophical perspective, as if only pain can deliver something really truthful, the real beauty of the human spirit, when we could argue for triumph, but only pain that delivers this inevitability of do you agree with that?
Well, and it is completely embedded part of the story. That is almost the spine of the story. You see, there is a reason why it's called Hello Beautiful. Hello Beautiful, in the beginning of the film, as you saw, it was about the surface beauty, about the how beautiful the face is, the hair, the body, the whatever it might be. And then through the experience of the breast cancer, what we saw is the true beauty, which is the internal beauty. So it was the journey from actually the external beauty that we feel to the internal aspects of what our thoughts carry, what we have inside of our hearts and our minds, and what we value as good, as bad, as whatever other things that carries that sense of beauty. You see, it's not because we look so beautiful and we're always looking for that perfect picture to place. It's not about that, you see. Taking all of that away and allowing your true self to go back internally and find the real you, the you that really existed at one point or another, is what becomes beautiful in this way. Despite the fact that you are scarred, despite the fact you are pain, but in spite of the pain, you discovered that the internal beauty is where true beauty resides.
Exactly, and I love the perhaps it's the final shot. I don't know if I'm spoiling this, but it's very powerful
Yes.
when we see her, and women are very familiar with this. We see her chest without her. How do you describe it? After the surgery.
Yes.
So she's and how that is very difficult for a woman, that women usually have to identify with their bodies, and then to have that
Especially
taken,
a model, especially a supermodel. Yes.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
a model, and
Right.
then also, so the idea of beauty is philosophically very very, it's a problem. I mean, beauty could be evil, could be something surface, as you mentioned, and how we think today in, you know, social media about just looking beautiful. In this case, I guess you're saying is the pain, is the struggle or the triumph. That's the inner beauty.
It's what opened, for example, in Christine tells the story often that prior to having this, the things that were important to her were all shallow. Nothing really mattered. It's the next best dress, the next best shoes, then the beautiful lipstick, the hairdo, or whatever it might be. That's what she valued before she went through the experience. The experience allowed her to shed away the irrelevant elements in her life and to look and live life from a truthful point.
She was helping others and start caring about, as I mentioned, her even saying in the interview, right?
Correct.
Suddenly she realized the human relationships perhaps are the most beautiful, valuable things for her.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was definitely a beautiful film. I want to move again. Perhaps we talk about the actors, or how did you navigate all of that? If I again come back from the same angle of cinema as, you know, this difficult logistical art, you and Christine have a vision, but then there is this long journey to make it happen, right? Do you sometimes feel like whether this film would survive, or how would I maintain the vision while all of those logistics and actors and branding and
So, all stories are about relationships. All stories are about the essence of what you're trying to bring to your viewers.
mm-hmm.
If you compromise that, don't make the film. Immediately. Just stop. Don't. Because simply compromising all along the way, you dilute the power of the message, and you don't want to do that. Regardless what, and we had tremendous hardship in actually realizing the film because of COVID, because of the finances that took time to be able to bring together. So many different obstacles that set us back, but we never gave up. Instead, actually, one of our co-producers, Michael Espinoza, says, we always fell forward instead of fell backward, because it sort of forced us to be better, to make the script better, to think differently about certain things, to make sure to hone the message to the proper balance. So without keeping that, you feel so compromised by the time you begin filming. And you don't want to do that simply because you hold the key to allowing everybody inside of that door. And if you're already compromised and you're fiddling with the lock, not knowing how to open it, how the heck are these people going to trust you and follow you into a door into God knows to where it goes or where it leads?
Yeah, exactly. What I'm saying is perhaps most people don't realize how much it takes to produce a film.
A lot.
I mean, I produce a small indie short stuff, video essays, and that takes really a lot of like the commitment, the time, the effort. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Ziad, you also, I want to ask you about teaching. You're a professor. You taught photography and filmmaking. To put it simply, is cinema teachable? Is creativity teachable? Do you think, or
It's a yes and no. So there are certain things in which you can teach about cinema, which is the mechanics, the technical aspects. You can also improve on students' ability to figure out the process in which they need to take to put film together. But there are certain things you can't teach. The art of interpretation. The art of interpretation comes from their growing, from their years of becoming humans, from their community, their neighborhood, their friends, their schooling. That's something in which is embedded inside of them. So the value of being a filmmaker, and the difference is in the value of your interpretation. If you have a better interpretation, higher faculty understanding of what the world might mean versus some petty thing in which a technical film can tackle, like a fight sequence, for example. Not that I'm belittling of a fight sequence, but that's a technical aspect. You learn that. But underneath all of this, there is the core thought that comes directly from your power of interpretation.
and that you don't teach? Maybe you guide, or
you guide, you try to bring it up because it's such an individualized technique that you can't get inside of the mind and their experiences and changing it or shifting it. But what you can do is you can empower the interpretation to exist. The difference between a brave filmmaker and a shallow filmmaker is in their ability to have the courage to show their interpretation.
That's a nice way to put it, the courage. Yeah. Perhaps it comes from living their life, being curious about life, and
of course,
getting exposed to everything.
Yes.
And
Yes, I ask my students, stop putting the headphones on your head walking down the street. Hear the world. Stop putting glasses on and walk down the street. Look at the world. Say hello to other people. Look in the eyes of the other individual. Learn from them. Observe everything that exists. Because we, unfortunately, have denied our senses the full experience that is necessary for any storyteller to have in their bag. So we become so sheltered, so enclosed inside of ourselves that we are unable to truly see what humanity is all about. We are so like this, constantly being protective of who we are, instead of opening up to allowing the world to be experienced and to be fully lived. So we're living in terror rather than in freedom. We're living in that jail inside of us that somehow was created around us for one reason or another, unfortunately.
Ziad, my final question is about cinema itself again, and what can it do in the future. But let me set this up because I'm really interested in what you might tell me. So from the history of cinema, from the silent films, we had people playing the piano, then we had the analog, suddenly we had colors, then we had the digital editing, then the digital cameras. I see this coupling between technology and cinema. It's always pushed cinema to give us more, to the center, to tell us better stories in a better way, better lighting, and so forth. Today, it's a strange, unrepresented moment in human history. We have AI. It started as something slop, we call it today, but it went really to the edgy part where you can clean up things. I know filmmakers, I do it myself. Sometimes you could take your actor's dialogue and switch it, or maybe replace the whole actor or create a location, never mind CGI. And so that's the tension here. Do you feel that you want to, understandably, like other filmmakers, protect the tradition and keep the cinema how we loved it? Or are you excited, or you want to embrace this unknown, uncertain future with AI inevitably knocking on the door of cinema?
So when sound came, people were terrified. What might happen to the films, the talkie, as they called it? How is that going to be? You know, it's only added, because film is made up of 50% sound, 50% visuals. When special effects came, people said, oh my God, it is going to destroy the filmmaking, because everybody is just going to be wowed by all of these special effects. They're not going to want that human emotions again. When each new experience, each new tool basically found its way into the telling of the story, people were so afraid of it in the beginning that it terrified them to use it. Becomes an unauthentic experience, which defies the fact of why they became storytellers in the first place. You see, it's a tool. AI is a tool like any other tool. You will never be able to replace true actors with AI. Why? Because the details, the fluctuations, the humanity that exists in what the actor brings, the power of capturing those senses, cannot happen with AI.
I wish so, but Ziad, you seem very sure about this. Are you sure about that?
I am sure, because I know what touches me, what touches me. You know, Vanessa Redgrave at the end of Atonement, the film Atonement, she had a medium shot, and slowly the camera started pulling in and to a close-up of her. And everything in the background was black. There is nothing else than just her face telling the story. It couldn't be more powerful. Even if they had 50 planes crash, it couldn't be more exciting.
Yeah.
If they had any explosion in the world, that the humanity that she captured in those moments, in talking to the camera itself or the person who was interviewing her, that life cannot be recreated. What the actor is capable of doing. Yes, nowadays it can help with writing, it can help with color correcting, it can help with, a variety of different aspects, right? Including movements of cameras, including so many other tactics. But the essence of cinema, which is the human relations that exists in it, can never be replicated. You can never feel from a digital creator the power of what it is to be a human being.
I'm sure you're also, I completely agree. I sometimes struggle to define what is it that we can't change, For example, I'll give you one example from music composition. So there's a symphony by Schubert. It's called the Unfinished Symphony, which he died before he finished it. Early on, they fed the score to AI, and AI predicted in a brilliant, logical way the patterns, the motifs, the themes, and they taught the AI, here's how you finish a symphony, right? You have the second movement, the first, the second, the third, and the finale. So it did really a good job. So
Yeah.
now we're facing a question. What's happening here? It sounds really like almost if Schubert did finish it. But of course, the story ends that Schubert died. He never finished it. And today,
Correct.
orchestra play that and they just finish at the second movement and people clap and it's the unfinished symphony.
So, but Schubert still is the creator, you see. Schubert gave all the codes already embedded in the notes and the bridges and all of the different transitional elements in which he embedded in that particular symphony for any intelligence to take it and continue where might this journey go.
For sure. At least this is the status quo. But soon, even like we could teach the AI Shakespeare,
yes,
Bach, and then this AI could produce similar profound work. But maybe, Ziad, to me is this one of the angles I always try to think about it is, would you be interested to watch a film that fully created by AI, script, actors, sound, all of it in a brilliant way? How would you feel
until I do, I don't know how I would feel, and I will not deny myself the experience.
At least you would be interested in the first or the...
I have to. I have to. Ethically, I have to, because I would deny myself the learning if I were to put my nose up in the air and say, no, you are lesser because you created this in an AI. Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why am I so higher up to be able to say something like this? No, you have every day is a learning lesson.
Yeah, we have to be open to those things, right? Especially it's challenging to say that AI is lesser. Soon, I mean, we already we're feeling lesser than AI. But I wonder with you what could be human here? I mean, maybe if I tell you Yazan have a film, you know that, or one of your friends, you know that here's a fellow human. He struggled. He came from this. He have that. There's a story here. Once I finish your film, I talk to you, I wonder about your background. But when it's algorithm, there's none of that. So maybe I see, if you see what I'm saying here, there's this connection here that we create. Now we have albums, by the way, created by AI. We have AI slop. It's a big problem, getting rewarded by the algorithms, making money, people behind the screens doing absolutely nothing, just asking ChatGPT for all of those. And I do myself, just like you, I'm open to those ideas. I'm very excited. What can this bring to you, to me, empower us to do more? But I do deeply worry about us as audiences not recognizing where the value is, not recognizing the human creativity, which I don't know if we need to redefine creativity today, right? Like if I ask, if you're a painter, Ziad, some painters have this reaction, which they would document themselves painting stop motion, like 300 pages, and then play it. So it's an animation, you know what I'm...
Yeah.
And they go through the pain of, painting the background and all of that for 300 pages and document that to tell us like, look, I did it. But this is also tragic because it's missing the point. Your creativity is not to sit down and do repetitive work, and right? Do you see all this disruption that is...
You said, do we need to redefine creativity? Creativity is every day is being redefined, whether we want it or not. It is a constant battle. It is between the old traditions and the new traditions, between the old mind and the new mind, the fresh mind, and so on.
The craft and the inspiration.
Of course, it is. So only tomorrow defines what a creative process is. Only tomorrow, not today. Today you live it, you exist in it. Tomorrow you reflect back on it. And therefore that creative process has become this amalgamation of many different experiences. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, and I will never pretend that I know anything about what it's going to happen. But I do know one thing. When a composer and I talk about the shared experience, and from their own perspective, they think in notes, I think in visuals and sounds, and all of a sudden we click the two together, that note with this visual and that sound, and this magic just explodes. That can't be replicated. I don't care how many AIs are going to share with each other. That sense of magic that is brought to the storyteller, to the creator, is where it matters.
Maybe you mean the actual relationship that you had.
Not only the relationship, but the feeling
people.
that the satisfaction, the feeling in which you have, that can't be replicated. What I know is when you are creating something and everything is through AI, ChatGPT or something else, you have no stake in that creation. You feel nothing. And creation is about completely feeling it.
Mm.
Immersed in that feeling. Because I created with what? With my senses. What I hear, what I see, what I feel, what I touch, what I taste. These are the things that provoke me to create the thing in which I can share that other experience with humanity, because they understand in the same way I do with their senses.
But obviously, your collaborators, when you go with them through all of the process, that is highly valuable, right? It's not just the final product.
It's not the final product. It is what the final product, all in the process itself, what it brings to you with that shared creative aspects that you went through, delivers that. You feel complete as a human being. You can't have that feeling from working with AI. It becomes jaded. It becomes sterilized. It becomes non-feelings, because it's only taking one part of you, which is your brain, asking a particular question. Create this. And where does that go? You read it and you say, well, I have nothing to do with this. There is nothing that is related to my internal powers.
Yeah, exactly. Just to be clear, you're not dismissing AI. You just told me that you would be open and humble to see what is it, and you would go watch a movie created by AI. We're just trying to pinpoint what is it that humans can, what is it that cinema still can. You would bet that tomorrow would still tell us something that no other thing can tell us. Yeah,
it is, exactly, because there are certain differences that will never be consolidated between AI and real human experience. Things in which only humans who've lived that experience will understand it, will evaluate it, and be impacted by it.
Perhaps cinema also, Ziad, as a tool for empathy, right? You tell us stories like Hello Beautiful, we empathize with others, we understand them, we increase our empathy and humanity. I just want to wonder finally, what's next for you? What are you planning? Are you thinking about a movie yet, or are you taking a break? Watching the news.
No, I can't take a break. I am in the works of many different things at the moment, but my obligation, first and foremost right now, is to make sure that Hello Beautiful lands where it needs to be, which is to the general public to be able to see it. So that's keeping me focused on that journey. Then following that, we are many stories, many great stories are awaiting to be told. So
great. Thank you so much, Ziad. It was a pleasure to talking to you, and I enjoyed your movie a lot. And thank you so much. Hopefully I'll talk to you again.
My pleasure, and thank you, and good luck, all right?
We are a way
All right, you
for
take
the
care.
cosmos to know itself.
This is Parallax. Conversations and interviews by me, Yazan. I talk with academics, scientists, thinkers, and all creatives, and I'm here to listen, ask questions, and learn from their insights.
Drawn by the music of cosmic harmonies, it can take us anywhere in space and time.
To better understand how the world works.